Alright, so this is the second part of this video. My other radiator actually came in a lot sooner than I expected it to. So I'm going to be able to finish this build this weekend. Hopefully, anyways. Go ahead and set this aside. Alright, there we go. Alrighty. Again, just a disclaimer about brands and models and stuff that you see me mention or that you see in this video. There's no paid product placement or advertisement or anything. It's just what I'm using. So, this is a Fractal Designs case. It's not the biggest of cases, but it comes with cable management, this design, and all of that. Now, the first thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to install my radiator on here. So it's going to take me a little bit to figure this out. Front panel just pops off, which is nice. Yeah, what I'm using here is a Alpha Cool. This is a 240 mil red. This is going to go in the front. Ah, come on. There we go. Now, I got the 240 because while the front of this case can house 140 millimeter fans, a 280 rad would be too tall for me to get in here because of the end tank. All right, nice. I'm thinking these screws go through the chassis here, so I might be able to just back those out and get the ends of them to catch the radiator. Yeah, I'm just kind of experimenting with this as well. Alright. Pull these out just a little bit. Back them out till they're smooth. There we go. Okay. Right now I'm just backing the screws out till they're flush with the inside of the housing. Now if this was a 25 or 30 mil rad, I might be able to mount it up front and then put the fans on the back. However, it's a 45 mil rad, so it's a little bit thicker and it won't fit up in here. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and remove these plugs so that I don't have to fuss for that once I've got the thing installed in a machine. Okay. Hey, it caught. That's awesome. Okay. Let's see here. Nice. It's actually working. Kind of, anyway. Okay. Go. Just gotta keep finagling with it. Okay, that's awesome right there. This is just a little bit more. Shit. Come on. Nope. That's one thing about installing, doing custom builds. Sometimes you gotta modify things or make things work. And so you gotta have a little bit of MacGyverism abilities. All right. Now, there we go. That, push that, turn that all at the same time. Nope. Come on. Got it. All right. That one's in. Hold, push, and turn. Right. Okay. Not engage. held in place. So I think we're good on that. Now, on the back of the water tank, this is the inlet fitting hole on the water tank, and this is the outlet from the pump. I really want to get this one installed before I do anything else in here, because that's kind of a hard reach back there. And again, take a look at that seal. Seals are good. Screw that in. Tighten it down. Okay. Put that on to avoid losing it. All right. All right. A mistake I have made multiple times is installing the motherboard without putting the I/O shield in. It's really annoying to have the system completely built, only to realize that you forgot this stamped piece of metal that goes back here. Well, as a general rule, the audio and LAN ports are going to be towards the bottom and the graphics ports are going to be towards the top. Also, normally if you see any text that's horizontal like this, it's going to be facing the back side of the case, and the text going this way is going to be readable while the case is standing vertical. So, yeah. That just pops right in. Like that. Now, some cases will come with a default set of standoffs pre-installed. This case does not. These standoffs are what you mount the motherboard to. So what I want to look at is the standoffs I need and where to put those on the motherboard. This is something that after you've been doing for a little while, you can just eye it and know what you need and where to put everything. Also, that means I'm going to need another tool. Whoops. Okay. Okay. They're in here. I'm used to seeing the standoffs as being just regular brass, but in this case they're painted black. This here is a standoff. It screws into the chassis, you set the motherboard on top, and then a screw screws to the board into the standoff. Now, judging by looking at the board, I need one here. Here, here. Now here, standard ATX boards, some boards only have the one standoff here, some have both standoffs. This one has both standoffs. Whoops, I'll just grab that later. Standoff here. Let's see, standoff here. One here. One here. Now they've got just a plug standoff right here, so you don't have to bolt that down. I commonly see some boards have a hole here for a standoff. This one does not. And then these two holes up top here need a standoff. Did they not give me enough standoffs in the kit? That's a rarity. I don't think I have enough standoffs. Which is okay, I have extras I can always... If anything, I probably just dropped it and it fell into the back panel, so I'm going to have to go ahead and remove the back panel to check. Not a big deal, I'm going to have to remove the back panel for cable management anyways, so why not? Nope, it didn't give me enough standoffs in the kit. Let's see here. Let me double check. Yep, not enough standoffs. I just need one standoff. Let's see here. Here we go. Is that the right bottom length? Yes. This is what I'm more accustomed to seeing a standoff look like. It's just a plain, uncoated, unpainted brass standoff. So that goes right there. And now I'm just going to go through and tighten all these down. Don't want to tighten them too much because you'll strip out the metal on the chassis. But they do need to be good and snug so that they don't back out when you try to remove the motherboard at some point down the road. Because that's no fun. Okay. Okay, I got that one. Alrighty then. Now in the back here you have, usually around the lamp ports you'll have a little tab like this one. Sometimes it's also just on the display ports. I've got a couple that have tab here, 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 and here. You just gotta be careful of these. Just make sure that they go above the port on the motherboard and not into the port on the motherboard. So I'm going to go ahead and install the motherboard. I like to come in at an angle like this just to make sure that that tab goes where it belongs. There we go. And this is why they have this plugged standoff right here. It automatically positions the board on the rest of the standoffs so that you don't have to try and line it up and everything. You just get into place. Once it drops there, it stays in place. All right, now. Now one thing you do have to pay attention to is what type of threads the standoffs have. Some standoffs have the coarse threads, some standoffs have the fine threads. These ones have the coarse threads. I personally prefer these screws with the flats. It's just a personal preference for me. Some people would rather use these rounded off screws like this for the motherboard. It really does not matter. Take your pick. But remember, when you screw the board down, the head of the screw grounds the board to the chassis. Now, with this specific case, I think they intend for you to use the round head screws, not the flat head screws, because I don't have enough flat head screws to completely mount the motherboard. So I'm going to switch to the round heads. As I said, it really does not matter. It's more of a preference. Or you know, if you have enough screw of that type of screw. I'm kind of OCD in that I like having all the same screws holding the motherboard down. I don't like having round heads and hex heads. They all have to be hex or they all have to be round. That's just me being OCD. Again, it really does not matter. If you got a bunch of scrap screws and an old case, as long as you can secure that motherboard so it stays in place, it does not matter. Alright. And I need one more of those. Go figure. Those are the fine threads. Yeah, they kind of were a little bit chintzy on the standoffs and screws with this case. No matter. Alright. Motherboard is installed now. As you can see, it stays in place. It's not falling or anything. This is the back of the case. As you can see, it's got cable management space in the back. I don't really care too much about cable management because it's a server, but since it does have a side window, I should try and make it look at least kind of nice. All right. So we've got audio header, USB header, USB 3 header, and the front panel header connections. I'm gonna, there we go. Alright, gotta figure out where the stuff's at on here. So here's the front panel header. These are the front panel connections. I can come up for the bottom like this, which completely hides it behind the hard drive cage because I'm not going to be using that. And then just connect it. Now, this motherboard is labeled, so it does tell me how to hook these up. However, if you did not have or you could not see the labeling on the board, the manual will have the layout. Actually, I almost opened right up to it. Okay. Here's the system panel header. 9-pin panel. Power LED positive, negative. Power button, which goes to that ground. Disk activity LED, positive, negative. Ground and reset, and a final ground. I'm going to lay this on its side so I can get to it a little bit better. Okay, let's do the positive minus. Now the power LED is split like this. This is more of a reverse compatibility thing because some boards support the use of multicolor LEDs if they are either set to or detect that you have a multicolor LED or two LEDs. Or some older boards, instead of using a standard two-pin 2-space, use a 2-pin 3-space connector. So this is split just to maintain compatibility with boards like that. Let's see. That's the negative. Now the negative you can connect to any ground connection, but it's better to hook it up properly. All right, reset switch goes right there. Okay, they consider that center ground to be a spare ground, whatever. And then power button. Okay, cool. Yeah, does not include a system speaker. Oh well. Cool. So now I have that installed, which, as you can see, is nicely and neatly done. Now, these right here are both USB 3 connections. I'm going to go ahead, bring this around right here and connect to this one. I'm connecting to this one because these are ports 5 and 6. These are 7 and 8. It's just an OCD thing with me. It actually does not really matter, but I like to just have things hooked in order. Since there's not going to be since the other header is not going to be used, I'd rather keep with the lower numbers. Again, it's just an OCD thing with me. It really does not matter. Okay. Front panel USB 2.0. USB 1.2. So I'm just going to bring this all the way down. It's got a keying pin right here. These two over here are usually a ground for like cable shielding. Obviously this is not a shielded cable, but that's just fine. Just line the alignment pin with the missing notch on the board connector. Push it in and you're done. Front panel audio. That's over here. Again, same thing. There's a keying pin. Excuse me. There's a keying pin right there. It lines up with this missing pin here. Board says HD audio. HD audio. The old AC97 standards not really used anymore. But if this says AC97, it's not compatible with HD audio, or vice versa. Now, some motherboards, like an older board I got, the BIOS allows you to toggle between which interface you're using. If you're using AC97 or HD audio, HD audio is also sometimes referred to as Azalea. There we go. Awesome. All right, let's go ahead and install the other radiator. Okay, let me show you why I'm using a 90 degree right here. I'm going to use a 90 degree here and bring the hose straight down and over into here. And then this is going to be the outlet on the radiator, and it's going to come straight across over to the water block. That's why I'm using a 90 degree on the water block. I hope this will work. Yeah, it'll work. I'll make it work. So I'm going to go ahead and I really need a 45 for that, but I'll make something work. I might have to modify the case a little bit to get that to fit. All right, got that in place. All right, now you might be wondering, like, you've already got a pretty big radiator, why are you putting another one in there? Well, it's simple, really. I plan to overclock this, and because the servers are literally in my living room, I want them to run as quiet as possible. And 2 of these 3 fans are going to be temperature controlled by the CPU. And the more cooling space you got, the more exchanger space you got to get heat out of the cooling loop, the slower the fans can run and still keep the CPU cool. And slower fans are quieter fans. The one 45 millimeter thick 240 mil rad is probably enough for what I want to do, but that means I'm going to be pushing my fans as a lot faster than if I add another one. That's nice. It's going to fit nicely right there. Now these radiators come with a hardware kit. This hardware kit that's new. Oh, that's kind of cool. That's for removing the, nice. So you have 3 types of screws. You have the short screws. These are for mounting the radiator directly to the chassis. And then you have 2 different sets of long screws. These are going to depend on how thick your fans are. What these do is these go through the fan and then bolt into the other side of the radiator. All right, I'm going to lay this back down. It's going over here. Plugs on the back side. I'm going to go ahead and install the fittings on this. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, coming out of the outlet of the water block, that's going to come up and go over here into the inlet, and then this is going to be the outlet, and it's going to go straight across to the coolant tank. Basically, I'm trying to keep my hose runs as short as possible and as neat as possible. There it is. These are Monsoon Fittings. They're not cheap, but they're really nice because you can just, they come with a tool that fits into the center here. Allows you to just screw that right in. And then when you're installing the actual hose, these are soft hose fittings. This part fits around the hose and locks into these notches here and allow you to tighten it down around the hose. Going to go right there. Since this is being bolted directly to the chassis on the back, I need the short screws. And come to think of it, that's probably why there's actually 2 lengths of the long screws. A, for depending on your fan thickness, although they're usually pretty much all the same size. But if you decide to say do a push-pull configuration, you'll use the shorter of the long screws on the front side and the longer of the long screws on the back side, so it can deal with going through the chassis as well. So they give you a good amount of options for mounting these things by default, and you can always buy different hardware if you need it. This radiator I actually purchased as an open box. And it's what an open box is. Somebody bought it, opened it, realized it's not what they needed, and returned it. So I was able to save some money on this one, which is nice. Because once the package has been opened, it's no longer brand new. There we go. Okay. And another thing about this video I'm doing, none of this is rehearsed. This is, as you see a system builder building a system. I've been messing with computers now for 15 years, but everything's going to have its hiccups. Everything's going to be a little bit different. And this is only like the third liquid cooling system I've done. Alright, now that I got all the screws in, mostly tightened down but not snugged yet. There's indentations on the back of the chassis to allow the screws to recess into the chassis to make it look cleaner. So you don't want to just tighten one down. You want to bring them all in till they kind of stop, back off maybe 1/8 of a turn. Do that with all of them so it centers nicely. And then you go back and you tighten them down. Okay, cool. Now, because of this fitting back here, I don't think I'm going to be able to get to that if I install the fan right now. Where's the fan for it? Let me see here. Now, I'm not going to be able to get to this if I install the fan, so I'm going to have to install this fan after I plumb it in. All right. And power supply. Now you might be wondering, it's only 500 watts. I'm used to seeing people putting 1,000-watt PSUs, yada, yada, yada. Well, yes, but those people are also installing multiple graphics cards and overclocking those graphics cards. If I install a graphics card in here, which I will at some point just to get myself that little bit of RAM it uses back, it's going to be a low powered card. This, with the overclocking I plan to do, this system should only pull at most like 300 something watts. So a 500 watt power supply is plenty sufficient for it. No need to spend more money than you really need. Especially when, at the time I purchased this, which was about a week ago, good quality power supplies are not cheap. I personally like the Seasonic line of power supplies. They've been around a long time. I think they've been around longer than even I've been alive. So, you know, that's saying something. A company that's been around that long, they know their stuff. I did not buy a cable management PSU. A, because of price, and B, again, this is a server. I do not care that much. Now, about the PSU fan. You normally want to mount it like this. In this case, this works for me because this means this is right at the hole in the back of the chassis to hide the cables in the back. And it has a neutral effect on airflow through the case. So its effect on the airflow in the case is neutral. It does not affect it. Now, if you are planning to have this sitting on a carpeted floor, you want to mount it like this, where the intake for the PSU is inside the case. If you intend to have this sitting on a carpeted floor. The reason for that is the carpet can come up and prevent air from being efficiently pulled through the PSU, causing the PSU to overheat and you fry your PSU. This is going to be on a rack, not to mention I got linoleum floors, so that's not a concern. So I'm going to mount it with the fan facing down. I'll do this. Okay. Now, a lot of modern cases, they're being designed so that the PSU can be mounted either way. The holes on the back, because the holes are different depending on how you orient it. So that's what that one screw is for. Okay, cool. Okay, I'm gonna do this. So that explains why there's only 4 of those screws. They intended you to use them for the power supply. Okay. Got no problem putting a plain Jane screw hidden up somewhere where it's not really going to be seen too readily, because it's going to be completely blocked out of view up there. There we go. I got some extra black coated screws somewhere, but I don't feel like looking for them. There we go. And now that's installed. What I'm going to do here, see this hole back here? That's where these are intended to be routed out through. So I'm trying to be neat about it, do it a little bit at a time like this. There's enough space in the back to hide everything I'm not using, so that's yay. There we go. Motherboard. There we go. Just like that. All right. Now the ATX connector for the motherboard power is right here at the top of your screen there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring the connector up like this, up through here like that. Now this goes first, right over there, then boom, there we go. And the main part of that cable is hidden in the back, so it doesn't look overly tacky. Now this has two ATX inputs for the CPU, a 4-pin and an 8-pin. I'm going to see if the PSU has both. VGA, okay, I don't care about that one. CPU, here we go. Now this power supply only has the one 8-pin. It's either a 4 or 8-pin. And I definitely want to use the 8-pin ability of it because I'm overclocking. So I would like to connect the other one as well because it would provide more power for a stable overclock, but 8-pin should be enough. 4-pin would not be enough. These are keyed, thankfully. There we go. All right, connected and secured. Leave those in the back for now. Now, most relatively modern boards have two CPU fan connections. What's good about that is that's for these dual fan radiators, so that temperature control will control both fans on a dual fan radiator. Now, I'm going to have 3 fans. What I'm going to do is, this one's going to be CPU temp controlled. One of these is going to be CPU temp controlled, and the other one is going to be on all the time, full blast. Reason behind that is I want to maintain positive air pressure on the case. So by having one constantly moving relatively fast, it'll make sure that the case is under positive pressure. Make sure that everything else in here is kept nice and comfortable. All right. So I need to install the fittings on that. And you can see the issue I'm going to have here. I was thinking of getting a Dremel and cut that, but I might be able to just bend it like that and make that work. I don't know yet. Maybe bend this out of the way. Missing the seal. It's all right. Got extras here. That's one thing that's nice about the Monsoon kits. They include extra seals. There we go. That feels more like what it should. All right, there we go. All right, so I know I still need to install the fan here, but that's going to happen later. Radiator, power, okay. So, chassis fan 5. I'm going to keep one of the chassis fans just plugged in down here at the bottom. It'll keep it run nice and short and allow me to keep it nice and hidden. So, there we go. One thing I like to do with these fan cables is bring it down and just kind of tuck it in underneath here in this little space down here. See how this comes out and goes back in? There's actually a pocket on the inside there, and I like using that to hide cables. That up through right there, and there's the fan connector. Every single fan connector on this motherboard has PWM support, which is nice. There we go. Tucked and hidden. Now the CPU fan connectors are up here, so this I'm going to run like this instead. Again, up in here. Believe it or not, this is rolled right here to provide extra strength instead of being solid, but there's enough space to tuck a cable in there. Bring this back up around, and that's just so it doesn't hang here and become visible. And then just bring it out right here. And that's CPU fan 2. Right there. Awesome. And as you might be able to tell at the moment, that's actually pretty clean as far as cable management goes so far. Alrighty then. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and do some plumbing of the thing here. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove these compression fittings here. Tube cutter. Put the tube in here, squeeze it, cuts it. And there's my extra tubing. So now we're about to see how this works. So you take the compression nut, slide it over like that. You push it onto the, I know it may seem a little funny, but it's called a nipple. You put it onto the nipple of the fitting. And tighten it. And then this is where this comes in. Just kind of do this. Tighten it down. And there you go. It's called a compression fitting because when you bolt this, when you screw this down, it clamps down like this and compresses around the hose, squeezing it around the nipple of the fitting, which keeps it from leaking. All right. I'm gonna grab something real quick and be right back. All right, just went to grab a marker so I know where to cut, and I want it cut right there. So I'll bring this up, pull that straight, line the blade up, I want to squeeze, cut, smooth and easy. Now I'll take the other compression nut, slide it over. I do not like this one as much, but you know, it is what it is. And press that on there. I may have cut it too short. Yeah, I cut that too short, but that's just fine. I have extra tubing, and this might be long enough to go from here to here. So, or even from here to here. So it's not wasted, not yet. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this from over here. Unscrew this. Twist to pull off. Remove the nuts. Grab my hose here. Line them up. And this time, okay, lined up. I'm going to cut it about right there instead. Put the compression nuts back on. And there we go, now it fits. Really, I don't particularly care for how it runs over the ram like this, because I'm not going to be able to get the ram out without disconnecting this, but that's okay. Alright, screw that down. There we go. This one on the other hand. Okay. Okay. That should be good. Alrighty then. So this hose is going to be running directly across right here where the fan headers are. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, where did I put that fan? There it is. Let's go ahead and take this and go ahead and plug this in. And lay this down here to tuck the cable up in there so that once I run this hose over, well, I should still be able to get to it. This is just gonna save me the hassle of having to do it later on. Alrighty. There we go. Again, compression nut. Connect it to the fitting. Bring it back over here. Mark it right there. Attach the other compression nut. Boom. There we go. And it's got a bend to it, so I can kind of move it around and get to that quite easily if need be. I could do that over here as well, so I can move this around and get to the stuff, but I don't ever intend on changing these once I get it to post. And another thing about compression fittings, tightness of these nuts does not matter so long as the compression point is where it needs to be to compress the hose to the fitting. Okay, now that I got this hose installed, I'm going to go ahead and install this fan. There we go. So M330, M335, I'm going to start with the 30s. You don't want to use screws that are too long because they will actually pierce the radiator and cause So, yeah. The reason for using an external power supply like I'm doing here is you never want to power on the main system in case there's a leak in your tubing. If there's a leak in your tubing and you have the main system powered on, even though I'm using distilled water here, there's still a chance of messing something up. If something spills while the system's on, let's say it got some contaminants or something in it, it can short out the motherboard. Well, not likely, it can happen. So it's better to use an external power supply because as long as the board's off, if it gets a spill on it, once it dries, it will be fine. Now we have the fill port on the front here. And just grab the tool and pull that out. Now what I have here is just a spare length of tubing. It's got a regular fitting on the end right here that I got it clamped down to, and a funnel on the other end. I actually just got this from the sports section. Used to fill up my, it's used for like filling up like Coleman stoves and whatnot with gas. I got one specifically for this purpose, so I'm just going to screw this in here. I personally just use plain old distilled water. It's less than $1 at the local shopping store. Now I'm just going to fill this up. As you can see, I'm dripping a little bit there because it's not a perfectly tight fit around the top up here because I don't have a clamp on it. I don't know where my clamps are, but since it's outside the case, I'm not really worried about it. One thing I'll sometimes do is I'll remove this part of the hose right here and just blow into it to put some pressure on it, which will force the water in. There we go. But really what you want to do is you want to try to avoid just like straight up pouring it in. You want to try and trickle it in a little bit. That way air can escape at the same time as the water is going in. And that's just a caveat with this particular reservoir I got. Some reservoirs you can remove the entire top of the reservoir and you can just pour it in and fill it up without any hassle at all. This one, you gotta take it kind of slow because, as you just saw. But what I love about this reservoir is it's everything in one. It's got a pump, it's got a flow meter, it's got got the tank, and it's got a temperature gauge. So with all of that all in one, I can put up with a little annoyance with filling a loop up. As you can see, I kind of figured out if I just do this to allow air in and escape. Okay. Now, one thing that could be done to make this easier, there is a fill port on the top of the tank. I could open that up and the air could vent out that way. Only downside to that is I can't get to it. So this could be much easier to do, but due to the case design and whatnot, yeah, I can live with it. There we go. Now you'll notice that there's two different levels there in the tank. That's because there's a gate right here that allows the water to flow in over here. Now, one important thing with this particular pump reservoir combo, you want to make sure that this is completely filled with water before you attempt to turn the pump on, because this is the side that the pump primes itself from. This is the tank, this is the pump side. So this has to be completely full. And it actually looks like the design on this one's different. My old one that I got, the fill gate was right here. This one, it's down here. So in order to get that air out of there, you gotta do this. And in this case, that also allows the water to flow down into the radiator, the front radiator here. Also remember, you can just rotate this in whatever direction you feel like as well. The computer does not care how you arrange it. Oh, there we go. That's going much more smoothly. All right. Okay. There we go. That out of frame. There we go. All right. So, all right then. Grab my power supply. Hook it up. And yeah, okay. There we go. Oopsie. What I'm going to do just for the moment is I'm going to remove this and put the plug back in so I can move this thing around and get as much air into the tank as possible and try and get this pump primed. Because right now the pump ain't having it, so it's got air trapped in it. Come on, quit grabbing my mic cable. There we go. There we go. Maybe that's got it. Let's find out. There we go. And you can see how the water level just dropped. All right. Water pumps become airlocked again, so do this again. And it's becoming airlocked because of the radiator in the front that it's dumping straight down into is releasing its air back up into it. So, there we go again. And I'm sure you guys saw how the water level just dropped like crazy. That is how much air is in the system still. And you got to keep going through this until you get all the air out of the system. It's tedious. I honestly don't even know if I'm going to have enough water for this because I only had like a third of a gallon left. Okay, tilt this way. There we go. Fill that back up. Okay. Put the plug back in. Okay. Okay. All right. Now looking inside. I'm not seeing any leaks inside. Should be able to hear the gurgling. That's air caught in the radiator and the water block. Now, one thing you sometimes want to try and do is move it while it's running to encourage certain air bubbles that are stuck to come out. And that right there just got a bunch of water out, a bunch of air out of the back rad. Actually, out of both rads. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and power this down. Okay. So what I'm going to try and focus on is this radiator right here. So to get that done, I'm going to lay it down like this. That's going to allow any air in here to rise to the top. Now I'm going to do this. Which allow any air to get up here, and do this. Which allow any air to get up in here. And it's doing the same thing to this one up here. And then look at that. All that water going into the water block. Or all that air going into the water block. Do this. Do that. Alright, do this again for the top rad. Oh, nope. Okay. Let me try powering up again. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and try and add a little bit more water. Let's see. Go. Tilt this side up. There we go. Oh, okay. Want to play that? All right. I just need me a little something else. Oh, there we go. That'll work. Maybe. Alrighty then. Okay. Yeah, this can be a messy process. All right. I think we should be good now. All right. Make sure that this part right here, I get all the air out as much as possible before I set it up right. Like that. There we go. As you can see, there's only a little bit of space there at the top of that one, which is what we want. One more run. And there we go. So there we go. You still hear a little bit of gurgling at the top of this radiator, which is to be expected because it and the tank are even for being at the top of the loop, so that's expected, no big deal. And yeah, there's no water on the motherboard. Don't see any leaks, so it looks like we're good to go here. So all right. Okay, just gonna do this with this real quick, like that. All right. Oh wait, not like, yeah, like that. All right, cool. And make sure those are pushed in properly. these things. One thing about these really cheap Molexes like this one, the pins don't like staying where they belong when you try to connect it. So they end up getting pushed out. Now, this one's not such a big deal as it's a ground, but it does need to be connected. Come on. Come on, you stupid shark, get in there. Son of a... It's kind of sad, really, that the tips of these aren't really rounded enough to line up properly, and that's why this happens. See if he'll play nice and connect for me. There we go. Nice. All right, got it. Okay. This goes over here. Or I could do this as well. There we go. Get that all out of the way. Okay. Another zip tie for right here. There we go. Boom, 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 boom. Zip that up. There we go. Right. There we go. All right. Nice and clean looking. For the most part, anyways. All right. All right. So it's powering on. Don't know yet if it's posting or not. So I need a cable. Yeah, this one is right. My monitor's off screen here, off camera. But I'm gonna go ahead and hook up a cable. There we go. Because the way this is cycling does not look good to me. All right. So I'm gonna remove some of these modules. And see if it posts with just one. And we have post. Awesome. So I'm just going to go add one module back at a time here. All right, power on. Yep, we got post. I don't expect it to post with 3 modules, but I'm going to give it a go. Yeah, it's giving me the cycling to the 4 Charlie again. Yeah, not going to post. But let me go ahead and try to reseat this. It may also be possible I need to do a BIOS update to get the capacity. I don't know. BIOS updates are always a pain in the neck to have to deal with. Nope, cycling double lot to 4C again. Started misbehaving when I plugged this one in, so I'm going to remove this one. Go ahead and remove this one. It's misbehaving when I connect this one, so remove this one. And here we go. And it's posting. So either there's something wrong with the... So this could be a number of things. Could be an issue with the CPU. Could be an issue with the motherboard. Could be an issue with these sockets. Could be an issue with the memory module. Well, it's not posting. So it might be this one memory module here. So what I'm going to end up doing ultimately is running a mem check on these, making sure all the modules are good. And if I come across a bad module, I'm going to have to return it to the seller and get a replacement. And it's entirely possible that there's nothing wrong with any of these. It's also entirely possible that there's something wrong with this one module. But regardless, troubleshooting is not the point of this video. I will gladly run this machine with only 64 gigs of RAM if I have to, up until I can get the RAM fully upgraded and installed. So, just for the sake of the video, I'm going to reassemble this. All right. So we have all of this going on here. It just power cycled because it's having issues with posting, but that's fine. I'll deal with that once I'm done with the video. So we have our reservoir, temperature gauge, flow meter, which has the pump built into it, which goes into a 240 millirad on the front, which comes over to our water block, goes to the water block, comes out to the 120 millirad in the back, and then goes back up front. Looks like we might have a bad memory module. I will be troubleshooting that off camera. Well, thank you guys for watching. I know this is a dry kind of video. You got to be really technical and really into this kind of thing to watch it and not just skip through it. That's whatever. So, you guys have a good one.